que salta del cómic.
He thought he was in control. How wrong he was.
Hey, what's up? It's Shane with Dynamis Media, and I'm joined here with Stefan.
Hello, hello.
And you are tuning into the Dark Side Drive-In, where we review the best horror movies of all time. That we consider the best movies of all time, right?
The finest in cinema. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so we're kind of going on this journey to go back and look at the movies that are near and dear to our heart, which happen to be the 80s horror genre, and we're gonna do our best to rate them and kind of sift through what we think is good, what we think is bad, and and have some fun along the way. But we also invite you to join us, so stay tuned, listen to the end of the episode, or go to our social media. Probably Twitter's the easiest, and we will blast out which movie we're gonna do next week or the next episode. And you guys can watch it before you listen to us. That way we're kind of all on the same page. But in terms of housekeeping, we kind of took a little break with a couple of our shows. We're kind of working on one of them, like workshopping. We slowed down on the YouTube a bit. It just takes a lot of time for kind of what we're putting out. We weren't really happy with it. So we launched a new show called Sir Cheddarworth's Roundtable. It's with Dylan and his wife Alyssa, where they kind of add a different perspective to gaming and nerd culture in general. But I think we've got a really good episode in store for us today. I've been pretty excited for this one. I've used this word as an insult for most of my life, which is kind of awesome. And my friend's older brother kind of introduced us to the word, but we hadn't seen the movie. I was like 12 or something. So I had used it for about 5 or 6 years before I said it to a friend, and he's like, hey, we have to watch this movie. So why don't you kick it off with what movie we're going to talk about today?
Okay. With an intro like that, a word that's entered the common lexicon, we're going with C.H.U.D.
C.H.U.D.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller. You can add an effect for that, right?
Yeah, sure. You're just going to have to wait and see what I do.
A few moments later.
C.H.U.D. Cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller. So yeah, this is a movie that I can't remember when I first saw it. It's like one of those things that's just been a part of my life forever. The movie itself obviously came out in 1984, so before I was born, an era only known by George Orwell. But yeah, so this movie has been around for a while, and compared to something like The Stuff, which we covered last week, if everyone has watched The Stuff by now, this is a bit of a smaller movie in terms of scope and in terms of what it's doing. Like we're not jet setting around the country, following the exploits of like a corporate saboteur. This one is very much focused on like a neighborhood in New York, where there's C.H.U.Ds, obviously.
Excess of C.H.U.Ds.
Yeah, probably more than you want, considering you probably want 0 C.H.U.Ds in your neighborhood.
But surprisingly, not as many as you need.
So. How many do you need? How many C.H.U.Ds are like the baseline of C.H.U.D action? I would say 3.
I was going for 12, but
12 C.H.U.Ds?
Yeah, 12 C.H.U.Ds.
Wow. Well, there goes the neighborhood, as they say.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But they do say that though, because the neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So yeah. Do you want to dive into it, or do you want to talk about any of the? Well, I guess we could talk about the director of this movie, because he's almost directed nothing else.
Yeah, I was gonna say I did some research on this. I was pretty interested to see your take on this.
Yeah, this man, he peaked early. He's like, I did C.H.U.D, and that's all I need. I think he directed like 2005 like documentary about like early Christianity. Other than that, he's mostly like a editor and stuff like that. Like, he really has never directed anything else. And honestly, if you direct something as good as C.H.U.D, you're done. Like, you got it in one. So good for him. He knew he peaked.
C.H.U.D led him directly to the Christian documentary, I think.
I mean, yeah, I mean, C.H.U.D is as close as you get to God, I guess, at the end of the day. But yeah, so basically he directed C.H.U.D in 1984 and then directed like that documentary in 2005. And then that's like it for directing credits for Douglas Cheek. So, easy to cover his credits because he barely did anything. But if he's listening, sorry, Douglas, if you're listening, like, no disrespect, man. You did C.H.U.D, the nation owes you a debt, sir.
Yeah, all of your movies can't be winners. So you did C.H.U.D, now it's enough.
True, yeah.
So last week we had some really high class acting. I forgot how many famous people were in this movie, and some of them were like just starting out too. I don't know if we want to get into the actors now, but I was just blown away. Because I forgot about some of these people.
Well, I hope you're not about to say John Goodman. I don't know how you could forget about John Goodman, but he has his first like ever, I think, film acting role in this, in like 2 scenes as a cop who, spoiler, gets murdered by chuds.
Yeah, he was kind of a chud himself in the movie, though.
Well, you know what? It was the 80s.
So now you're kind of understanding the term for my word, right? It's like my replacement for any insult that I can't come up with because it just has such a good sting to it. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a very guttural word. It's easy to say like that.
I forgot he was in it.
You forgot John Goodman was in it?
I did. I don't know why. I haven't seen this movie in a really long time.
To context for the listeners is John Goodman plays a cop who is one of 2 cops that go to like this all-night diner and just like hits on a waitress, and that's like his character is hitting on this waitress and then getting murdered by chuds, and that's about it.
Or a gas leak or whatever they're claiming.
Yeah. Not to get too ahead of it, but like the excuse that like, oh, it was a gas leak, kind of shallow excuse when there's just like blood everywhere.
Yeah,
it's
broken
like there's
windows.
no way in hell that was a gas leak. Like clearly people were murdered gruesomely. But the government in the 80s, they didn't know how to do excuses,
Yep.
Some other actors in it are some alums from Home Alone. You've got John Hurd, the dad from Home Alone. You may know him as the more negligent of the 2 negligent parents in Home Alone, because he barely seems to take an interest in the fact that his one son's missing. And then you have Daniel Stern, who plays a character called the Reverend here, AJ. But he was Marv, the wet bandit, who was alongside Joe Pesci in Home Alone. I was just going to say, unlike Home Alone, they actually share scenes in this. They did not appear on screen together in Home Alone. There
is no way that you're ever going to convince me that C.H.U.D isn't the origin story for Home Alone.
Go on.
So like the wife kind of looks like that, like she's pregnant, so that timeline kind of checks out. John Hurd and John Hurd and Daniel Stern's characters are kind of acquaintances and friends, right? So that could put them in like similar areas. I know this is in New York, but I am going to probably for the rest of my life just internally believe that this is the origin story to Home Alone.
Yeah, like where was Home Alone? That was in Chicago, right?
Yeah, it was Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like things went badly for John Hurd in New York. Considering the C.H.U.D situation. So yeah, maybe he decided to go to the Midwest and have a bunch of other kids.
The Reverend was already doing kind of shady stuff with crime, and then kind of try to turn over a new leaf. And yeah, I really think it is. So
ooh, you make a point. That is a stunning indictment of the American judicial system, that the Reverend, despite his best efforts, eventually the recidivism rate gets to him.
Yeah.
He turns back to a life of crime with Joe Pesci doing I guess mostly harmless robberies.
And toilet clogging.
Well, it's his calling card, man. You got to let people know.
Right.
The wet bandits.
Yeah. All right, I'll let you go. This is not a Home Alone podcast.
Is it not? Is that not our theme now?
Yeah.
Every but yeah, I can go into we can go through the plot. Like I said, unlike the stuff, not as rich with incident, but that kind of gives like the movie more time to focus on C.H.U.D action, which is what we are all here for at the end of the day.
For sure.
So yeah, boom, in media res, smash cut, streets of New York, wet. You ever notice that the streets of New York are always wet? Like, what's up with there? Like, tons of moisture. But yeah, so like it cuts to like a lady, she's walking her dog. Gets too close to a manhole cover, C.H.U.D attack. Smash cut, again, I don't really know what a smash cut is, so I'm just going to say that. Smash cut, C.H.U.D And let the record show, it is an acronym. C.H.U.D. So, C.H.U.D on the screen. And then, basically just showing the grime and like the urban decay of the city then for the opening credits. Just showing some street cleaning, showing, a bunch of homeless people. Things are not going great. This is like a New York City that's like just climbed out of the refuse of the 70s and hasn't found its way yet. And then also there's C.H.U.D, spoiler alert. So then we meet our main character, as I said, the dad from Home Alone, playing a character named George, who's a photographer. And you know that because he's taking pictures out his window of just the surroundings. Very much you ever see that movie American Pie?
Yes.
Remember that creepy kid who's like, there's such beauty in like the bag.
Yeah.
In the yeah, like that. So he's like doing like, his own version of that, just taking photos of bums and stuff. Ignoring a phone call from a writer who's writing a story that he's going to use his pictures for.
Mitch.
You get the idea that he is shirking his deadlines, procrastinating. We all get it. And he has his wife, or I guess girlfriend at the time. They aren't married, right?
I don't believe so.
Yeah. His girlfriend, named Lauren, is a model. But spoiler alert, he seems like he's kind of a little bit self-obsessed dude, because she asks about her jewelry, because they just moved to this location, and he unpacked all his photography stuff but left her jewelry in like a trunk in the basement
Near the C.H.U.Ds.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Anything, whenever the lower you are, the closer you are to C.H.U.Ds. Every day. Not just in the C.H.U.D movie, but in life. The lower you are, the closer you are to C.H.U.Ds. It's known. So basically, she has to go down, get the jewelry she needs. It's important to know that, like, he left all of her stuff still packed up because she's going to, spoiler alert, here's a little breadcrumb for the future. She's going to go down there again. So basically, then you go to George is basically the reason he's kind of procrastinated, and this is like one of the first hints that there's something afoot, is that he was taking pictures of specific homeless people, and they are now missing, right? So then we cut to our police captain, Captain Bosch. Now, this is an actor that I have not seen in a lot of things. Did you see him in a lot?
I have. So it's Christopher Curry, right?
Right.
Yeah, so he was in a couple of TV shows that my wife likes. He played like a kind of like a deadbeat dad character. He was in a couple other things that I've seen, but he's usually like a supporting actor. But
yeah, it's kind of cool to see him taking like a little more of a center stage role here then, because he's very much one of the, I would say out of like the central characters, there are three. There's George, the Reverend, who we haven't gotten to yet, and then Captain Bosch, who at first, I thought that he was going to be your prototypical like 80s, cop covering up for the baddies, because like whenever he gets these missing person reports, it seems like he's going to sit on them, like because he's ordered by the police chief, to like bury this. But he actually is going to look into it. So he's actually like, even though he's being told to put a lid on it, he has a vested interest in looking into it. Kind of a spoiler alert for later on when he's talking to the Reverend. But the woman who was chudded up in the opening wet street scene, that was his wife taking a dog for a walk. So even though it seems like, Bosch is going to be one of those like, just sit on the truth kind of cops who's going to cover it up, he is actually going to help lead the charge here.
And like another interesting thing about Christopher Curry, he was credited as a writer for this too.
Oh, really?
On the film. And I always wondered like if they were going to make that kind of character and cast him, and he was trying to like muscle in and be like, hey, look, I want to add a little more depth. Cause like, I thought the same thing, and they did a great job at kind of but they didn't reveal that until probably midway through the movie that was his wife.
That is true. Yeah. It's like way late. It's like whenever he, it seems like he's not going to investigate it. And like in a very cynical kind of 80s way, he starts his investigation. Like he clearly doesn't get along with the Reverend. He like clearly has like a certain amount of disdain for the homeless and for like, you know, the general community that he's working with, but he's also working the case.
Right.
So it's like one of those things like where he has to have like this cynical distance, but at the end of the day, he is trying to do what's right. Now, granted, he's doing it because of his missing wife, but at the same time, like all of the cops are telling him to sit on this, and like he's doing it, like he's going for it.
Right.
So yeah, then from there, you know, we get a, you know, there's like an old bag lady, a homeless bag lady, who has been arrested for trying to steal a cop's gun. And let me tell you, don't do that. Cops do not have a sense of humor about trying to take their weapons. Just trust me on that. So, yeah, so she's arrested, and for some reason, her contact, like the person she calls, is our photographer pal George, who is at that time doing a terrible job as a photographer for his girlfriend's like modeling gig for perfume. Is like, he's so rude. Like, is like, clearly he sees no artistic value in what he's doing, and he's going to make sure it's everyone's problem.
Yeah, and then they're right behind him, and he's just like, "It smells like shit."
Yeah, just
do they even
insulting
smell
them.
it? Yeah, right.
yeah, and just like he's clearly not on board with this. He wants to do something more artistically fulfilling, but he has to get that paycheck. So, but then he, you know, gets the call from the police that he's gonna have to go help the bag lady out. So where would he go from there? I think that from there, like, there's a lot of like confusing cuts in this. Like, it makes sense at the time, but like sometimes like there's no, like, I don't understand why we cut from like that scene to George then to, you know, AJ the Reverend, Marv from Home Alone, as we all know. We cut to like his soup kitchen, and Bosch is like investigating the missing homeless people there, and there's like, he says that there's like dozens of underground homeless that are missing, and like only one of them is around now. And it's like some crazy guy named Val, who, you know, spouts some kind of nonsense when Bosch tries to question him. He's like, he seems delusional. He has some kind of homemade knife that he brandishes, again at a cop. I don't recommend that, but he gets away with it because he's kind of crazy. So, you know, then we cut back to George, you know, picking up the bag lady, not really sure why she was, you know, taking the gun to begin with, but she explains that it's for Victor, which I believe is her brother. It's another homeless person.
Yep.
And then like there's like a long scene of them like wandering through like the caverns of the underground to get back to like wherever their sanctuary is. I'm like, man, George must be really tight with these homeless people. He's just like following her through these dark, like at one point there's just a collapsed wall that they're like walking down. So yeah, so they go down there. Turns out Victor, her brother, wants a gun to fight the C.H.U.Ds. Big gnarly wound in his leg where a C.H.U.D presumably bit it. He's in just bad condition. So yeah, from there then, you know, it cuts to Bosch and the Reverend are basically like working together now. It becomes a weird buddy cop movie with with Bosch and this
Turner
man
and
who
Hooch.
works with homeless. Yeah, I mean, wow, uncool.
I was just kidding.
Yeah, how dare you do that to Hooch? But anyways, so yeah, they like kind of uncoolly break into George's.
Yeah, like just like break B&E.
Yeah, like just light beanie, go in and break in and find some of George's pictures of various homeless people to see if like they're missing, you know. And this is when Bosch admits that like to keep the Reverend like working with them. He's like, one of the people who's missing is my wife. So like he, you know, they're on board with each other. And there's like a reference to like an EPA probe that's been going on under the city, and it was like been taking weeks, but it was supposed to have only been like 1 week, but it's been going on for several. And this is when, you know, whenever Bosch and the Reverend go to like the Underdark, well, I guess it's not the Underdark, it's Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, so we missed Murphy, who is like he comes out right when they leave the police station. He's that reporter. It's J.C. Quinn. So
yeah, he did not make a big impact on me as a character.
No, well, so it was weird. I think the only reason they wrote that character in was to get, we'll get there, but was to get John Hurd's character to go down into the sewers or subways. It was really weird. It was like a weird. Because they had to, I think it seemed like what happened was they're like, okay, the cops would definitely, like, how did they know about John Hurd's character taking photos? And then, like, we broke in there, but then how do we link the two together? So I think that's what that character was. I don't know. I that lost me a little bit. I'm like, why do they care about this guy? Like, I understand John Hurd's character, George, wanting his photos back. That makes sense, right? And thinking that the reporter took them because that's like kind of like the world he lives in. So he probably, that's his first assumption. I just thought it was kind of a weird character. And then, like, J.C. Quinn himself, I mean, not super famous, but has been in other things, right? He's recognizable. So it was like
he's worked before.
Yeah, well, you just put I feel like because he's actually a pretty good actor, and you throw a character like that, he has like what 2 scenes or 3 scenes, and he's dead. So.
Yeah, and actually, kind of confusing because he is following George at one point.
Yeah,
but there's also another guy who follows George like on Bosch's orders,
right?
Like another cop.
Yep.
So there's actually like multiple instances of like kind of indiscernible like 80s men kind of walking around, and one of them is the reporter and the other one is a cop, and it was confusing to me because he's the reporter who seems to be working the police beat, so he's like a fixture there, but he isn't a cop, but he wears like similar clothes to this other cop that was following George initially when like George left with the bag lady, and he like followed them until they went underground, and he's like, I'm not doing that. So he just like said, I lost him.
Yeah, I remember he's like, lost him.
Yeah, it's good, like crack police work there, bud. But yeah, so that guy but he is not the same as the reporter that you're talking about. So important distinction there. Yeah, so I don't know where we were. So like, I think we're at like now when Bosch and the Reverend are like lurking in the underground, and they find like a foot from one of them radiation suits.
Like those suits are ridiculous.
Yeah, so like they find a radiation detector and a prosthetic leg thing from one of those like suits. Yeah. And I was like, it's weird they call it a radiation detector and not a Geiger counter. Like, why didn't they just go full Geiger counter? Literally next scene finds a Geiger counter. I'm like, why did you even have the first device that I've never heard of when you're just gonna find a Geiger counter anyway? Anyway, never.
C.H.U.D.
Not a single moment is wasted in this movie, as you
know.
No. So
yeah, jump cuts everywhere.
Yeah. So basically, so they you fire up that old Geiger counter, and of course, instantly they're getting pings like on something that seems to be like moving closer to them and then further away. Spoiler alert: it is a C.H.U.D. And then you hear a C.H.U.D. like do its C.H.U.D. roar, but they don't actually encounter the C.H.U.D. They just detect it and hear it. So. Okay, here's a series of like scenes that are kind of confusing. So, smash cut. George gets home, finds out like his girlfriend Lauren is pregnant. Surprise! They have a discussion, kind of awkward discussion about like whether or not they're going to keep the baby. Yeah,
that was a weird like. Yeah, I'm glad it went the way it did because I'm
like, do you want to be a dad?
Yeah, it was like really weird.
It's like I get that he's like a workaholic or whatever. He didn't give any indications that he wasn't on board with this, so kind of weird, but cool. They're gonna keep the baby. Smash cut again. An old dude and his granddaughter in a phone booth. Now here's something I gotta explain to some of our younger listeners. Now, back in the day,
a grandfather is
no, back in the day when you made a phone call, you had to use a line, like a phone line connected to a broader network of other lines, and some of these were publicly available in what they would call a phone booth. Get it?
No, please continue.
So anyways, yeah. So like, then this like girl is like, Grandpa, there's a monster, and he's too busy on the phone.
Dude, holy shit. Hold on a second. I just realized there's a whole generation of people that will not understand the Superman phone booth thing.
Getting changed in a phone booth?
Holy shit.
Which actually though, like,
makes more sense.
Too much of an aside, but like, that's a terrible place to change.
Right.
Like phone booths are like clear, you can see into them. Why is he changing there? And also it's public. You can't do that. You can't get nude in public. I know he does it super fast because he's Kryptonian, but still.
Oh, there's old Croc putting his underwear on outside of his pants again.
There's like one split instant where Superman is straight up hanging dong, and we can't see it, but he knows he knows what he did.
Yeah, he knows.
But yeah, so basically, phone booth, the grandpa gets ate by a C.H.U.D. The little girl is left traumatized. Then cut to the police station where Bosch hears the cops talking about this little girl who claims that her grandpa was, taken by a monster. And, this is when Bosch like goes from kind of like ironically investigating this possibility of monsters to taking it very seriously. Like I'm used to I grew up reading Goosebumps, right? And in Goosebumps books, every single adult is always like so dismissive of the possibility of monsters or the supernatural or whatever. Give me one cop like Bosch in a Goosebumps, man. This dude is down for it. Like as soon as he like hears like 2 stories from people about monsters in the sewers, he's like, there's goddamn monsters, dude. Like we're doing this now. It's like, I would love to like, if there was like cops who just like were ready for the possibility of underground monsters. So, so like from there, Bosch calls up the chief of police, and he's like, I'm not burying this anymore. I'm going to meet with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Like, we're going to do this. And surprisingly, doesn't take long to get that meeting set up. I would have thought you would need like a couple business days, to get like a meeting set up.
See, I think they knew though, so they were trying to, as soon as there was any sort of like I felt like that guy was there as a liaison to stop any communication of this information. So like that was like
it does
his
seem like
only.
He's like very much like a sanitizer for like the commission. Like they expect there to be shadiness. So yeah, he was just ready. I can't remember what's the Nuclear Regulatory Commission guy's name. It's like Wilson or something like that.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. It was the only guy I couldn't remember what his name was, because he just like I felt like it was like typical. Yeah, it was Wilson. It was Wilson. Yeah,
yeah.
Typical.
So yeah, he's very much your like 80s like kind of business villain guy. like he wears a suit, but he's up to no good. So like you get it. Like we all know the archetype that we're working with here. So yeah, then Bosch goes to meet with the chief of police, that Wilson dude, and then some other guy who is something.
I thought he was the mayor. So
is he the mayor?
Is it Hayes? Is that who was that? Is that who it was?
At this point, man, it's just too many like white dude surnames. Like I don't know. It's some other dude. Like yeah. So like he is there, and yeah, maybe he is the mayor or working for the mayor's office or something. So yeah. So like basically like they get a meeting set up. Bosch makes the rookie move of bringing the Reverend with him to the meeting.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry, but there's no instance where Marv from Home Alone doesn't look like a maniac.
Pretty much same character, though.
Like, very much so, yeah. He's got a greasy, dirty shirt on, disheveled hair. Like, this man has been at it. But yeah, he brings him with him to the meeting. And this is kind of where, the Reverend sort of makes a mistake of his own. Because he shows the photos that they took from George's studio. They include, like, the wound from Victor's leg. Mm-hmm. He shows those photos and like passes them off as his own, which puts him instantly, on the shit list of the baddies and stuff like that. So basically, like at that point, there's there's like a random cut. Again, like some of these cuts, like I said, don't make a ton of sense to me, but they do cut to like George and Lauren, like romantically celebrating in the park.
Oh yeah,
insert
like, Murph.
Yeah, and then insert Murphy, who's like
creepy.
Approaches him in the park, like where he's clearly like having an afternoon with his girlfriend, and he approaches him and reveals that like there's some kind of nonsense afoot, and then back to the boardroom scene where the Reverend is the only person who understands like causation. He explains that like the Nuclear Regulatory Commission's presence is related to the disappearances, and like everyone else is like, nah, how can it be? But then Wilson, not being like the best at hiding his files, when his briefcase gets thrown, a file slips out which says C.H.U.D on it.
Yeah, right. Like,
and then they just say the words cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Well, no, at first he's like, oh, I can't tell you. I'd have to get clearance. And then he gets one phone call. It's like, say it again.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Yeah, instantly says it.
And he just says it like that's things that we have heard in our lives. Like, that's not a wild and crazy thing to even say. He just says it like that's a thing. And
but you find out later why he did that.
Well, because that's not what it actually stands for? Or?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah, I mean, like, so I'm kind of confused. So they know the existence of C.H.U.Ds because they made an acronym for it, or at least he came up with an acronym for it.
I think he came up with the acronym for it.
On the spot?
Yeah, I think the cover is ass.
This man has acronym skills, the likes of which have never been seen.
Well, think about it.
Came up with that on the spot.
Because like they had to make, because like they go down there and they find those C.H.U.D crates, right, or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Several crates underground.
Yeah.
Like, labeled C.H.U.D.
So like you had to imagine that because they didn't, like, it wasn't like they weren't like making these things. So
It's a happy accident.
They kind of imply that if in one scene, and then they instantly like take that like away almost within probably 30 seconds. But yeah, so you had the C.H.U.D boxes underground, and so I think he just on the spot like made that up, and then that's like how they were able to insert the title. I don't know. That's kind of what I felt about it after watching it again. But
it really does seem like a title in need of a movie. Like someone came up with this and like, we've got to make a movie out of this.
It's like this dude's a C.H.U.D. The hell's a C.H.U.D?
So yeah, and then their meeting is so conveniently after revealing the existence of the term C.H.U.D, they learn that there is a C.H.U.D, but it's dead. But they're gonna go look at it. So they all leave the meeting, put on radiation suits, and see our first like full body C.H.U.D, right? Like straight up, dead C.H.U.D on a slab. And for some reason, Wilson believes that this is an isolated incident. Like we only have the one C.H.U.D. It's like if you've got one C.H.U.D, you got more. Like you're never just gonna accidentally have a singular C.H.U.D. Like, what a foolish thing. Like, there's literally no reason for them to even have known that C.H.U.Ds existed. But then when you learn that they do exist, to believe that there's only one is folly. This man is a fool. But anyways, so, like, they end up, they want to send a science team down into the sewers to investigate the existence of C.H.U.Ds down there. And, what was it? Bosch wants to send cops. But everyone hems and haws and like, no, we just need a science team. But then when they send the science team down, there's just like fully armored flamethrower cops down there. I'm like, is this in New York's budget? Did they just have like a flamethrower squad ready to deploy in the sewers at a moment's
they have
notice?
like, Geiger counters, like flamethrowers and radioactive suits that were just like, it looks like they kind of just tied them all together.
What's it like? Wilson's like, he has like a cameraman down there with his like crew and stuff like that. So Wilson's like, telling the scientists, like, tell the cops to get out of there. And this is like when Bosch is like just big dick and Wilson all over the place. He's like, your man has a camera. Mine has a flamethrower. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah.
All right. Chill out, Bosch. Like, we don't need this much bravado down here. But yeah, so I was kind of glad that Bosch is kind of taking a stand and like putting Wilson in his place. But unfortunately, this is like a very much like an Aliens scene. The alien scene whenever like they detect that the aliens are near them, but they don't know where. Like basically the Geiger counters are firing on all cylinders. Like they know that there's C.H.U.Ds, but they don't see them. And then we get one of those like, fun scenes of like from the point of view of the camera that they're watching it like on a monitor back at base, watching their men just get massacred by C.H.U.Ds. So clearly Wilson was wrong as hell. There are many C.H.U.Ds, not just the one. He had no business thinking there was only one to begin with, but... So at this point, the mayor... Oh, it is the mayor. I have it in my notes now.
Yeah,
so
it's the mayor.
Oh, my God. On. So, yeah.
So
go ahead.
They created this command center, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, like, this has no effect on... Well, it has some effect on the plot. We'll get to
it's incredibly important in the plot.
Yeah, all right. We'll get to it. Keep going. I'll bring it up later.
Okay, but no, like, what I was saying then is, like... now, it's, like, really funny because, like, in these things, usually, like, everyone is on board with the cover-up until it's, like, way too late. But not anymore. The police chief and the mayor are like, we gotta tell people there's C.H.U.Ds down there massacring people. But for some reason, Wilson is still in charge. He's like, no. Like, we're gonna keep this under wraps. I'm like, why? Do they listen to this man? Like at this point, everyone is on board with like notifying the public about the existence of C.H.U.Ds. But yeah, so bad news on the C.H.U.D front.
Bad news. Chud's like 7, please 0.
Yeah, so at that point though, like there's nothing that Bosch can really do. Like Wilson wants to move forward with probably the dumbest plan of all time, which is to just gas the sewers.
Yeah.
Like filling all of your subterranean network with natural gas is a great plan. Like A+ effort, dude. So Bosch goes to warn the Reverend, because at this point these two are like pals. They've like been through shit together. So he goes to the Reverend and is like, yo, heads up, don't go to the underground. They're about to gas that shit. But then, separately, George and Murphy have now teamed up after, Murphy interrupted George and his, girlfriend's pleasant afternoon in the park. So now they're squatted up and they go down to the underground. Murphy's armed. He has a gun. George isn't. He's only got a camera. And Murphy is like immediately,
heart of gold.
Immediately murdered. By
yeah, right.
With a swiftness that would astound. Like I feel like he just like walks too close to like a chamber, doesn't look, and just gets grabbed and pulled away. So now George has a gun. It's Murphy's, because Murphy's dead as hell. Separately, the Reverend is going into the underground to warn that one hobo that he knew, the one last like undergrounder left, to warn him to get out of the underground because they're gonna gas that shit, and he's murdered.
Yeah,
by a government agent shutting a door on his head. And like,
that was really abrupt. I was like,
I get that the government like wants to keep, like, they hate the Reverend now. They want to put him to the torch or whatever. But like to like murder this random homeless guy like by slamming like the sewer like gate on his face is like, that's unexpected. This dude didn't do anything to you. But it's just one of them shady like agents working for Wilson who does this.
But it is the shady agent that ate the quarter. Remember?
Wait, what?
So he follows. So when they leave the meeting with Wilson, he calls that guy and says, and gives the description. He's leaving now. Marv, not Marv, the Reverend, goes to the payphone, puts that quarter in, and he instantly comes up and hits it, and the quarter goes into the where it returns. Again, kids. So you used to have to put the quarter or a dime or a nickel into the phone, and it would give you time, kind of like where you park. And then if you hurried up and
parking meters,
yeah, and if you would hurry up and double tap the receiver, it would give you the quarter back. So, anyways, so the quarter came back, and then he took it and put it in his mouth and swallowed it. Remember? And then that's when Bosch gets all, or not Bosch. That's when the Rev gets all freaked out, and then goes back to the soup kitchen and runs into Bosch. And Bosch is like, "What happened to you?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing." And then,
he ate his quarter. I forgot about that. Like,
so what's crazy is, okay, so when I first saw this like scene, I watched that twice. I thought like, okay, I thought it was an accident, and then they show that guy. I'm like, okay, for sure he killed them. Like that was like on purpose, right? Because I thought maybe that it was just like the cops just happened to just shut the grate at the same time he was trying to come up and pulled over it. And then,
that dude is like, because
for sure.
Yeah, he's working
murder.
for Wilson like 100%. Yeah. But yeah, so he's trying to, he intimidated Marv earlier by
eating a quarter. It was like, all right, bro.
I mean, I wouldn't fuck with that guy. This dude just ate legal tender. Like, I'm not playing games with him.
Imagine the germs in that guy's pocket.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, the Reverend is a greasy boy. But yeah, so he ate his quarter then. And yeah, so like now, we're starting to like, get to the point where all of our characters are coming to like
the
chuddening, yes, as we all call it. So two of our heroes are trapped in the underground, George and the Reverend, separately, but also in the sewers. The Reverend actually is like showing a lot of cleverness here, because he's like using the Geiger counter to like find his way through the tunnels and stuff like that. But it also inadvertently brings him close to like the C.H.U.D headquarters. Like, and what?
C.H.U.D HQ.
Yeah. So, okay. So I've seen this scene many, many times. Like the scene of like the C.H.U.Ds like at the barrels,
Yeah.
What are they doing? Are they worshiping it? Or
I've got a theory.
Okay.
All right. So we know that. All right, we're not really spoiling anything because we're going to get to it in a scene or two.
We're spoiling the entire movie. It's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, like, we're not like our procession through this.
Sure.
So the C.H.U.Ds are homeless people, pretty much, and and it's alluded to because the main character George happens across a couple of deranged. What do they call them in the? They don't call them underground dwellers. What do they call them in the movie? I can't remember. But people that live underground, and
I think they call them undergrounders, don't they?
Yeah, undergrounders. And then one of them has the chud eyes, and it goes to attack him. And then the bag lady, Mrs. Monroe, flips out. It's like, "Oh, you killed my brother," and attacks him too. So I think what's happening is because this is the scene where they find the chud boxes, which actually stands for Contamination Hazard Urban Disposal. And that's really what CHUD stands for. And I think what's happening is it was getting into their water or whatever they were consuming, and it was slowly turning them into that. So I think once they go full CHUD, I think they were starting to need that stuff to kind of get stronger or keep like chudding out.
Because they it definitely seemed like they wanted to be near it. But I couldn't tell if they were eating it or if they were hanging out with it or if they were worshiping it. Because one of them looks like he's bowing to it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, man, I mean, I'm not going to judge anyone's religion. Weird that you worship this goo. But anyways, yeah, so the Reverend finds the Chuds in the underground, but of course he moves too close and a piece of concrete breaks out from below him, notifying the Chuds to his presence.
Yeah.
So he's on the run from the Chuds. Then now we're cutting back to George's girlfriend, Lauren, in the basement again, because George left all of her shit in the basement like an asshole. So now she's like what is she like looking at like various mementos and stuff like that? Like it looks like she's going through like photo albums.
Yeah.
And one of them somehow falls like through the sewer grate into the underground. And she goes down there to retrieve it. And dead dog jump scare. Because she instantly finds the corpse of the dog from the beginning of the movie. Is frightened, as you would be.
Bosch's dog, by the way.
Bosch's dog, yeah. Doesn't find Bosch's wife, because that would be...
that shows up in a minute.
It does, yeah, you're right. I actually forgot about that. So, yeah, so she goes, like, she's scared now. So Lauren is going to, report the corpse of a dog in the basement. Yeah, cut to cops, like, at a scene of a body, like, very New York scene. They're like, what, at a pier or something?
Yeah, it was, like, off a dock.
Yeah, and then, like, Bosch is just there, like, he's like, I still have to do my 9 to 5, and I'm dealing with Chuds, are you kidding me? So he, like, rolls up on this, and then one of the cops is like, oh, it's his wife! And then, like, tries to stop Bosch from getting there, but he gets there and sees his dead wife.
Or her head.
Yeah, well, is it just the head, or is it, like, I thought that there was the body, we just see the head.
Oh, okay, maybe. I thought it was just the head, but you're probably right.
Yeah, in any case, Bosch does what you do in the 80s when you're a cop. He goes drinking.
He goes on a bender.
Yeah. And also, the sense of time is so confusing because, like, most of this movie happened over the course of days. But, like, all of this incident, basically, since the meeting, since, like, the cops went underground and tried to fight the Chuds, is, like, one day.
Yeah, right.
So, like, Bosch has time to go on a bender, get drunk, and then, like, still continue the Chud investigation once he's had, like, his fill of drinks. Because the cops are like, you should go home. He's like, you should fuck off. Like,
they're trying to console him, like, yeah, Bosch, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay, Bosch. It's just a dead wife.
Yeah,
but yeah, so
her head.
So the cops are trying to get him to stop drinking. He refuses.
They'll find your dog.
Yeah, they'll find your dog. I'm sure he'll be alive. Spoiler alert, dead. We just learned that. So yeah, Lauren cut back to Lauren at the apartment building, calls the cops to report like the death of the dog, and decides to take a shower.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I mean, I guess a good palate cleanser for finding the corpse of a canine. I don't know. Like, I feel like I would need a minute. But she takes a shower, and Chud. So like, cut down to the basement. Chud's breaking into the basement. Cut to her in the shower. Blood just starts flying out of the shower thing. No explanation why there's blood. I guess just because water comes from the sewers. Chuds are in the sewers. Chuds love blood. There you go.
I thought it was because Chuds are perverts, and they're like, "Oh, we'll get her."
But they don't even do that though. She just gets bloodied from the shower and then like stops her shower. In any case, now we get the intro of John Goodman as a cop that is not inappropriately hitting on the waitress, but like coming on a
Typical
little strong.
New York, like cat call kind of person.
Right, yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's like definitely like not chill, like by today's standards. But because it's the 80s, we just accept it. So then, the chuds are coming out in the public now. A chud emerges from the manhole. There are two drunk bums. The one drunk bum flees, tries to warn the other drunk bum who doesn't listen, and he gets ate by the chuds. I mean, presumably, I guess we don't really know if he gets ate. He just gets grabbed.
I mean, probably they are, cannibals. So I'm gonna assume
that is true. They're cannibals and they're humanoid. And you know where they live?
I know this. Hold on.
Yeah,
underground.
There it is. So yeah,
they dwell underground.
They do dwell in our hearts. But yeah, so like the chud attacks the diner. Like it's mostly off screen. We just see them like break the window of the diner. Then there's another scene with the chud breaking into the house where Lauren is, and very alarming scene because that little boy is like the chud is trying to break down the door, and the little boy like is by the door, and then he like his mom calls him. He goes to his mom, then he remembers he forgot his toy, and he comes back to the door. I'm like, kid, you're gonna die.
You're gonna get chudded.
Yeah, but fortunately, for whatever reason, the chuds are not interested in the kid. They only want Lauren, probably because she's the wife of a main character.
Chud love children.
Yeah, they don't mess with kids. So yeah. So like then like the police, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the news, like everyone's on the scene of the diner attack, and that's when they're trying to say it was like a gas leak. And it's like, dude, there's blood everywhere. Like, who's gonna believe there's a gas leak? But that's what the news reports. And at this point, like the mayor and the police chief are like on board with Wilson's absolutely maniac scheme to gas the sewers. Like, I guess one surface attack by the chuds is enough for them to abandon common sense. And meanwhile, in the underground, George finds the bisected corpse of Hugo, who's one of the underground dwellers that we had met, who was like buddy with the bag lady and Victor, her brother. So Hugo's in half. And this is the scene you talked about where Victor is now like transforming into a chud monster, forcing George to shoot him. And then the bag lady, for whatever, he has a double tap because the first shot seems like it takes, but then we get like a "I'm not dead yet, bitch" jump scare, and then he has to shoot him in the face. Bag lady doesn't understand that her brother was turned into a monster man, even though she should at this point understand that what the chud situation is. But fortunately, when she's about to shoot George, the Reverend just barrels in and like knocks her out, like just basically pushes her down. It's like, I don't even know if he knew that she was like threatening George. I think he just wanted to hit this lady. Yeah. But like, so he just like rolls in, just rocks her shit. And then barely any introduction between the two. It's like, oh, you're the photographer. It's like, I'm a homeless guy or homeless friend. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go on an adventure to escape the sewers together. Almost no introduction. They're just ready. They're just
insert montage.
Yeah. At this point in the movie really starts like, and I actually think it was very effective the way the editing is done at this point in the movie, because we are very quickly cutting between, what's going on with Lauren, what's going on with our guys underground, what's going on with Bosch and Wilson, like on the surface and everything. Like it's very much cutting quickly between these things. So kind of like just a quick like
breakneck speed.
Right. So, cut to, so like, I'll just kind of go through all of the details really fast. So Lauren sees the thing about the gas lines in the sewers. She wants to call the police, but because she knows for some reason that her husband or her boyfriend George is in the sewers. I don't know how she knew that, but I guess because like
she did Murphy. She knew that Murphy they were going to
again, like same day. So so earlier that afternoon when they're having their romantic stroll in the park and they get interrupted by Murphy. So she knows that her boyfriend is in the sewers. Her phone line is out for reasons. And here's another one for young listeners.
Well, so she pulled it out of the wall.
She did?
Yeah, when she was running, the chud was smashing the door. She yanked and it pulled the line out from inside the phone. So she was trying to put it back in. Yeah, because that's how that works. you just plug in a thing that's been ripped from the wall. But you know what? She's not a phone scientist, so that's okay. So basically, she's under siege by chud. George and the Reverend can't find any manholes to escape from because they're all being sealed up to prevent chud escape. That's when they stumble onto some of the crates, and it's revealed that the
the chemical spill thing is contamination hazard or urban disposal, like you said. And they learned that like Wilson's actually been up to this for like years. Like it isn't like they tried to pretend earlier that it was like, oh, we don't want to keep it down there, but we have a court order that says we can't move it. It's like, nope, he's been doing it on purpose because people don't care about the homeless, so he's just gonna poison them, accidentally turning them into C.H.U.D monsters.
Can we take a second to go back to talk down to our younger listeners? Hey kids, what we were referring to is a phone line. So we talked earlier about the payphone. Well, people in their house actually had ones that connected to the outside world too, through what you could.
It was like a payphone, but you didn't have to put a quarter into it.
Correct.
You just paid a monthly bill.
Do you know what would be an hilarious gag? And I'm sure it's happened in a movie, like to do a new horror movie, and then the kids are in like an older home, and it still has the rotary dial, and they don't know how to use it. Like I think that would be, and this one kid gets totally freaking just myrtled because he can't figure out how to do like the 9 the whole way around, and then let it go to the next one.
I mean, if it hasn't been done, I'm sure that it's like on the verge of being done. Because we recently had that movie, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Yeah. It was very much like a Gen Z sort of take on the horror genre. So yeah, like hopefully whoever the team is behind that, if it hasn't been done, hopefully they're working on it.
Yeah, so all the famous people listening to this, you can have that for free. So you're welcome.
Yeah, we don't even need a cut of the profits.
Yeah.
Because you'll make so many of them.
I don't know. So are we going back to the apartment or are we out of there?
I think that we're actually going back to the apartment. So
okay, good, because at this point,
like the guys are trying to escape, are unable. So the cops show up at the apartment because Lauren had called them. With a immediacy unrivaled by anything in the world, they are instantly C.H.U.D murdered. Like they open the door and be like, "Hey, we're here to investigate," and they just get grabbed. I'm like, "My God!"
The C.H.U.D let them in. Like they
buzzed in. Like the C.H.U.D opened the door and they killed them. Like, yeah, and no one will be seated while the C.H.U.D just instantly murders these cops. Yeah, so they were not of much help. So yeah, so that's when Lauren is like screaming for help from the window because like the C.H.U.D's trying to break into her apartment. No fire escape, so I feel like it's probably a violation of some codes. But I'm not a building inspector, so it's not my business. And Lauren actually, like, what seemed like it was going to be a damsel in distress moment, she, like, turns this shit around. Like,
oh, yeah.
She, like lures the C.H.U.D in and, like, goes into the dark room and, like, climbs up on a shelf and jumps behind the C.H.U.D and gets out and then finds a sword?
Okay, like, hold on. She didn't find it. So the filmmaker did a great job at showing those swords every time they're in their apartment. It was always like right off to the left. You know how when you do the movie, you have the squares and then you put things in focus? Those swords were always in the top left focus the entire time they're in that freaking apartment. And I'm like, if she doesn't take one of these freaking swords and use it on this C.H.U.D, I'm going to be pissed.
Well, that is the thing. It's very much like a Chekhov's gun thing. Like,
yeah, totally.
Like these swords that you just think are just there. Or no, she's going to straight up gank one with it. And not just gank him. She decapitates a C.H.U.D in battle. Like,
I like it, like stretch this neck out. It's like, you won't cut my head off.
Yeah, I bet you won't use that sword to cut off his head. It's like, oh, she fucking will. And she does. So that's like really cool.
And then
like,
it bites her.
Yeah, like the C.H.U.D is still like pissed. Like even though it's decapitated and it bites her. But yeah. So she's no longer in danger, but she knows that her boyfriend is. So she wants to like get to the scene of the diner attack in order to tell the cops, hey, there's alive people down there, not just C.H.U.Ds. Like, don't kill my boyfriend. He's about to be a dad. So she's like, takes the police car, straight up GTA shit, and starts driving to the scene. Meanwhile,
knows how to turn the sirens on somehow.
Yeah, she's like really good at driving police cars. Yeah, it's again, so like she's like one of the most capable people in this movie, I feel like. But yeah, so she's on the run to there. Our sewer boys, they find the corpses of like the police and the scientists who were down there, and they find the camera.
Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So, okay, they just had some dudes sitting in that room watching all these people get murdered on that camera laying on the ground for how long? Like at least 7 hours, right?
Yeah, like all day.
He's just like hanging out in there.
And fortunately,
like
that guy is still
friends.
there.
Yeah, his dead friends are all over the ground.
But yeah, but that's what you. So yeah, that's the thing. Is like the camera's just like focused on the corpses.
Yeah.
But like, so you think that they're in danger because they're like waving and stuff in the camera, but there's no sound, so the guy can't hear them. But they find on like the head of one of the corpses has the headset. So they put on like the headset and everything, and like are able to talk. And they tell the guy like, get Bosch. And like I was like, there's no way in hell they're gonna get Bosch that quickly. They do. Literally, just a cop just like gets Bosch from the scene, because at that point Bosch has been kind of pushed aside by Wilson, who's like, you know, now they're all on board with his stupid plan to gas the sewers. Like he's just kind of twiddling his thumbs. So yeah, so Bosch, you know, finds out about, you know, the guys that are underground. They tell him, I guess in case they don't make it out, they explain to him that Wilson's actually been doing this on purpose for years and everything. So, you know, Bosch does the thing that, you know, we all want to do, which is he confronts Wilson and he fucking decks him, right? Or is it he decks him later whenever, so like
he threatens to shoot him.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So basically he threatens his life. So, you know, just nothing wrong with that. But so then like, you know, Bosch wants to let our heroes out of the sewers, and Wilson's kind of being shitty about it. Like, I don't understand. Like at this point, man, the cat's out of the bag. Like, don't add 2 more deaths to the list of like corpses that you're responsible for. But no, he's being an asshole about it. And, you know, so Bosch, you know, wrecks his shit.
Fucking haymakers him, dude.
Oh yeah. Straight up. Like, yeah.
Mike Tyson, that guy was out.
Yeah. Super punch out. And then, you know, cut to like Lauren arrives on the scene. You know, she and Bosch are working to, you know, get one of the trucks off of one of the nearby manholes to let our, you know, 2 heroes out of there. Meanwhile, there's Chuds, you know, on their way to them. So it's like a photo finish. And Wilson shoots Bosch.
Yeah.
Like, real dick move.
I didn't expect that.
No, I thought he was a coward, but like,
yeah.
At that point though, like, how are you gonna cover? Like, you could cover up everything else that's happened. How are you gonna cover up shooting a police captain? Like, didn't think that through. But fortunately, you know, Lauren moves the truck to let them up, right? Because Bosch has been shot at that point. Or no, I think at that point, Wilson's trying to flee. It seems like he's trying to flee. Yeah, but he's not trying to flee. He's gonna like run them down. Like, now that the heroes are out of there, he's gonna like run them down to, I guess, cover up his many crimes against humanity. But fortunately, the Reverend takes Bosch's gun and just like shoots the shit out of Wilson. And they mentioned earlier that like, hey, like, be careful driving these trucks, because even the slightest impact can make them explode.
Yeah,
and it does exactly that. Like, it goes to like the manhole and it explodes instantly. I'm like, oh my god! Like,
plus the gas, right?
Well, yeah, there's
which
the gas.
It would have leveled. It would have leveled that city.
It's done. The entire block's done. Yeah, but for some reason that doesn't happen. And yeah, so like, there's our ending. We get like the reuniting of our romantic couples. You know, George is kissing his girlfriend. The Reverend is stroking Bosch's head
as he's like, good shot.
Yeah, Bosch, good shot. Yeah, so it's like, so I guess Bosch lived, like, or at least he lived long enough to like congratulate Reverend on his shooting skills. And so then you know, over the credits start rolling over the scene of a burning truck and our 2 couples reunited. Yeah. And then just like the bangerest of bangers for 80s music plays. Like, I don't know how you felt about this, like, credit
Loved
music,
it.
But yeah, I like let that shit play.
The whole movie, the music is like, so if we graded music and sound, we aren't. This would be like an A+ for me.
It was it was absolutely
so good.
Like, yeah, straight fire. I couldn't believe it. Like, and then like that part, like, I just let the credits play. I'm like, I'm just gonna listen to this now while I like do my dishes or whatever the hell I did after I watched the movie. So, there you go. That is the plot of C.H.U.D. You know, if you are interested in the world of C.H.U.D that they've created, there is a sequel called C.H.U.D 2, Bud the C.H.U.D. We will probably not cover it for the podcast because the quality does dip.
No, you don't say.
But
I'm looking into this right now. Yeah, this looks pretty rough.
Yeah. So, but yeah. C.H.U.D 2, Bud the C.H.U.D is the sequel. Not as good, you know, but you know, you can't always get it right like they did with the first C.H.U.D, because they absolutely got it 100% right.
There was a movie that came out I don't know what year this
I
is.
don't believe you.
And thanks. 2012. And it's called Requiem for a Chud.
Go on.
And I'm like looking into it right now.
Is it related to the greater C.H.U.D universe?
I think, I don't know. It looks like a someone made this in their spare time in their backyard with their friends kind of movie. But
I mean, C.H.U.D is almost that. So yeah, and that's the thing is like C.H.U.D 2, Bud the C.H.U.D, like different directors, I believe different writers, like different cast. Like it's almost not even worth considering it a sequel, except that the titular Bud. The Bud the C.H.U.D is just one of the homeless people that they remains C.H.U.D up and they like capture him or something. It's not a very good movie, I'll tell you that. It does exist. If our listeners can't get enough C.H.U.D action, there are ways to solve that for yourself.
so minus the name, like I actually feel like this would be a good show, like if or even a video game. Like if they could add more time into this, I feel like you could build a little better and like. But I would love a TV show, like a reprisal of C.H.U.D 1, and it's just like an eight episode miniseries or something. Like
yeah,
a
like
one
something
shot
on
HBO.
like a mini series on HBO.
Yeah, I think it would be cool.
So a nice slow burn, like get more into like the photographer and the cop and the guy, the homeless outreach guy who slowly uncover this mystery, being sandbagged at every turn by like the authorities and stuff. Yeah, that'd be a great show. Granted, at the end of the day, it will be C.H.U.D's. But
so C.H.U.D 2 looks more like a zombie movie than C.H.U.D. I'm just watching some of the trailers right now, and they're like it's like they're military. Yeah, it's weird, but yeah, they definitely moved away from the like they gave them more sentience and like they talk to each other and communicate and stuff. So
well, because
it seems
Bud the
more like
C.H.U.D and that one is like the leader of a C.H.U.D group or something.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's kind of that's what I mean. Like if C.H.U.D 1 was kind of a throwback to like a 70s style, like grimy New York, like very centralized horror story, I'd say Bud the C.H.U.D is very much more 80s. Like it's like military, government, creature feature, that kind of thing, like a little bit trashier, like in a way that even though C.H.U.D 1 is trashy, it kind of has a more of an identity of itself. As C.H.U.D 2, like Bud the C.H.U.D is just more like throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall and see what sticks.
Got it. So now I think we did a pretty good job at wrapping up the movie. Why don't we get in the judgment categories? Let's kick it off.
Judgment categories.
Yeah, so what are you going to?
I love it.
That? Yeah, put some kind of effect for the judgment categories. Combo breaker. So yeah, so we have
combo breaker.
So what we have our categories. We give letter grades for new listeners.
Yep.
Sort of story, acting, effects, writing, and then the cult factor, which is that little X factor that makes these kind of movies a little bit different from other movies. So I guess we'll start with story, because that's the first thing I said.
So for me, I'm gonna give it a solid C.
C is for C.H.U.D.
Yeah, I don't know if you agree or disagree. What are you feeling?
Yeah, there's like a simplicity to like what the story is doing that works in its favor, because like you're not gonna like break your brain trying to follow this thing, but to that end, it is a little rote. Like, oh, you got your your sinister government guys, you got your police trying to cover it up, you got your locals trying to investigate it and do the right thing. Like, so yeah, and like nothing is like groundbreaking, but as a story, I do think it is like coherent. Like there are like things that happen don't just happen for no reason. Like I said about the sword, I kind of made a joke that where'd this sword come from? But the sword was there. Like you could see it. It was in the establishing shots. Like scenes like, why was she driving to the scene of the diner or whatever? Like, well, the reason is because she knows that that's where they're like cordoning off the area for the gassing, and she wants to stop them from gassing her boyfriend. So like there's enough narrative coherence that I think that you can't say that it's bad, but I would say that C is fair because it is kind of one note. Like, you know what you're getting.
Yeah, and I think too, like and another thing I'm talking about story, because we really don't get into this in our grading, but like I also take into how the story was presented, and the pacing in this movie was a little off. I think if they wouldn't have if it wouldn't have been breakneck the last like 20 minutes of the movie, and they would have spread that action out a little bit more, I think it would have been maybe a B for me. But yeah, the pacing was just kind of not there for me.
Well, they realized at the end that they had to get us out in 90 minutes.
Yeah, right. That's kind of how I felt. And, maybe there's like a full version, like maybe, you know what I mean? Like maybe this is like a
director's cut of shit.
Yeah, right. That might add some stuff in between, because they did a lot of jumping around in the middle too. But yeah, I think that's the only reason that I went down to see was just how it was presented. I'm not saying it was presented poorly. I think it was presented okay. Like it was pretty good, but it wasn't like stellar, and it wasn't above average.
No, like I said, I think it's coherent, just kind of wrote. So yeah, I think C is totally fair.
Yep. They did write this. You're correct.
I hate your guts. So anyways, acting. You good?
Yeah.
Stay focused.
I love it. Stay focused.
This is a professional endeavor, goddammit. Okay. Acting. Now, you might not agree with me here, but I might say B on this, because
I 100% agree. Go.
Yeah, like I think Bosch, like the way that his character evolves and like the quiet desperation that he has really comes through. And, I think that, Marv, the Reverend, like he's never going to win any awards probably for his acting, but like as just like this kind of, kind of wild, like friend of the homeless kind of dude, like you buy that, like, and you buy like George, like the dad from Home Alone, you buy him as like a, an artist who like has to do what he does for money, but like maybe he's not doing the time and the work he should in his relationship, but by the end he's grown quite a bit. So I really think that the characters, like when the stuff, like I liked the stuff, but I did feel like a lot of the performances were hinged around the charisma of the performers. And this one, like granted, like every actor has a certain amount of charisma, but I really think that in this one, it's the performances that kind of come through a bit. So
I totally agree. You might even have, because like I don't feel like any character in this movie did poorly. Like we had a couple gripes with some of the characters from the stuff, but I really think the actors nailed it. Even John Goodman.
Yeah, even his like very brief
48 second, yeah,
very brief role as a somewhat sexist guy. But yeah. So like, what I mean, every character like did pretty good. So there's no real complaints here. I mean, no one's gonna win an Oscar for C.H.U.D, but I do think that everyone held their own. So yeah, that brings us to effects.
I liked it. I thought they did a good job with the C.H.U.D monsters, like the C.H.U.Ds.
They do the thing that you should do, like the Jaws rule of show your creature as little as possible. I don't even know if I could tell you how many C.H.U.D outfits they actually have. Like I'd say that on screen you've only seen maybe 3 together at once. But other than that, like they do a good job of like, you see like some hands coming out of a manhole, you see some like glowing eyed gross head, outside of a phone booth. So like they do a good job of like, I'm sure that there's like a budget here. And they do a good enough job of like keeping the spotlight off of their creature until they're ready to show it, and then they only choose their scenes sparingly. And I think that works to their favor.
Yeah, and the sets were great. Like that, like how they set stuff up. Like that, the shower scene with the blood was really cool. I really liked. I like how they did even the explosions where they were like exceptionally large. That was kind of it. They did set it up at least in like saying like, hey, if you even hit a pothole, this thing's gonna go up. So I thought
they
it was
made sure
cool.
that we knew that there's a possibility of explosions, and they cashed that check.
They delivered. So I'd say B.
I'd say B as well. Like you're gonna find that I am just a sucker for these practical effects, but like practical effects that are used, like they choose when to show certain things and when not to. Like I'd say the only effect that was kind of like really was the sword scene that Chad like stretches out his neck like, I bet you won't chop my head off. It's like, yeah, she's gonna do it. So
but even the CGI, the little that I don't even know if it was CGI, I'm pretty sure it was the blood from the C.H.U.D blood,
how it's like
and then the radioactive waste pile, they use computer effects to make it like glow green. But it wasn't overly done, right? Because even the eyes, like, so they could have done that with the eyes, and they didn't. The eyes were practical.
Yeah, they're like
the
actually backlit, like eyeballs.
Yeah, so
which is cool that when a Chud dies, their eyes stop glowing, which is kind of
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Like, I don't know the science of Chud eyes, but that was an impressive effect in my opinion.
What are you, a Chud scientist?
Yeah, what am I, some kind of Chudologist? Yeah. So next up is writing.
What do you think?
I think I don't know. Like I said, like it's not just like with story. Like there's a narrative coherence here, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like it's anything really to write home about story wise. So I might have to give it a C on the writing front.
Yeah, I agree with you. You could probably argue me to B, but I think where the difference comes in with the writing is like some of the characters, like Murphy, right? That sticks in my brain. Like why? I know why, but like they could have done other things. Maybe
he is very much a character who existed just to take George to the sewers and get murdered. Like that's
right?
what he exists for.
Right. So I thought they probably could have done a couple of things differently, but again, and for everyone listening, if you missed last week's episode, give it a listen. But I am a very harsh grader, so like C's are pretty good for me. And we gave the stuff some A's because it is awesome. But so if I say a C, don't take it the wrong way. It's to me that means it's like good on par with like what's happening with everything else. A B to me is like it's pretty good, and an A is like perfect. So I think a C from us is a pretty warm grade. So think of it more C like good, not like C like your parents are gonna ground you for 2 weeks or whatever. So
I wouldn't know what that's like. I never got C's.
Yeah. What am I, a chud? All right.
But speaking of C, that brings us to our final category, which is cult factor.
What do you think?
Hey, look. I'm gonna have to say A. Like I can't get enough Chud, man. I love it. Like I don't like. There's like something about this movie. Like it has its premise. It says it's gonna do cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers, and god damn it, it does them. So you got to respect the assurance, like the self assurance to like put out a movie called that and then like execute on it. So yeah, it's like, is it gonna win awards? No. But for me, like the cult factor is kind of what keeps it alive for me to this day.
Does it chud? Yes. So I think it's fair.
Does it chud? Now that is a good question to ask for this movie. For others, it will not be as relevant. I just watched Titanic. Does it chud? Absolutely not. No, it's not even any ground.
Can it chud?
So are you going to let me have the A on that?
Hell yeah, dude. I think the cult factor and this stuff, it's hard to really put quality with this. I think to me, like a bad grade in the cult factor would be something that's just like, again, we talked about this last week about movies we don't like, but it would be hard for me not to score high on a cult factor. Like it would actively have to go out of its way to not try to be this type of movie. You know what I mean? Because some of these, they're self-aware, right? To some extent.
Yeah, like when we do like Roman Polanski's The Pianist, it's like no cult factor at all.
Yeah,
it's a sad Holocaust movie.
That's a perfect example of the horror movie that we're, yeah.
A sad Holocaust movie also directed by a child molester. So great.
You're just checking off all the boxes today.
Yeah. No one will be seated when Roman Polanski puts out his Holocaust movie. Anyway, on that note.
Well, no, hey, you know what letter comes after C, right?
Is it D?
It's D.
The D roll. So this is our arbitrary categorization that we do at the end after we've done grades. You might think it's a hat on a hat, like we've already graded it. Why do we now have to like slot it into a specific category? But if you don't like it, start your own podcast.
Yeah.
So so the D roll categories are cult classic, B movie, grindhouse, or trash. And we kind of went in a little bit last time about like what would qualify as trash. It's rare for something to become trash in my eyes, but it does happen.
And it will be trash the whole time, right?
Yeah, it's always trash.
Yeah, it's always trash. Started trash, ended trash. Probably designed to be trash, honestly.
Yeah, sometimes. And there's like something to be said about movies that do that know what they are. But that doesn't mean we have to enjoy them because we don't. But I don't know if you already had a thought on this. I did. Probably will go. I'll probably go with B movie on this one.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. Like I rewatch C.H.U.D all the time. I have a lot of affection for it. I basically watch it every October. But if I'm being honest with myself, like, say if I'm on a plane and it crashes in the desert and I'm trapped with only like 20 movies, would C.H.U.D be one of those movies? Well, it might be. Never mind.
So you're just not going to celebrate Halloween on that island?
Yeah, I was going to say probably all 20 of the movies will just be
It's just going to be C.H.U.D.
shitty horror. Yeah, I could bring 20 movies. 19 of them will be C.H.U.D.
C.H.U.D in Spanish, C.H.U.D
Yeah.
in space.
Yeah, and then the last one, I don't know, I guess like, I don't know, Jurassic Park? Whatever. So 19 copies of C.H.U.D and 1 copy of Jurassic Park will be my desert movies. Yeah, now that you've questioned me on it, I'm actually going to say I want to say cult classic. B-movie was unfairly cruel to C.H.U.D.
Well, I feel like if you talk to people about this genre of movies and they know anything about this, they know what C.H.U.D is. And
It
people
is-
still talk
yeah.
about it. Like, I feel like, maybe after, I don't really know how this was received. I can't expect I don't think it like probably set any
Poorly.
record. Yeah. So to me, that's like the perfect kind of movie that fits in that cult realm. It's like, didn't do well at the time. Everyone's like, this is dumb. It had like super high end actors. I guess maybe not at the time, but they are like in the 90s and 2000s. So I'd give this cult classic. I think this is going to be the hardest one for me because I think a B movie has to be not a bad movie, but like I feel like C.H.U.D did really well, and people like it stood the test of time. It's almost like a cultural thing now. Like
Yeah, it's
hell,
actually
we've
when
used
I
it
was-
for an insult in my area for 20 years. So
Well, yeah, actually, so I was reading like some of like the trivia stuff on IMDb in preparation for this episode.
yeah,
And apparently, like, there's a VHS copy of C.H.U.D on a shelf in Jordan Peele's Us. And it's
there
like,
is.
yeah. And
No
apparently,
way.
like, Us, like, some of Us was actually, like, inspired by C.H.U.D. So, you know what? If it's good enough for Jordan Peele, it's good enough for all of us. So I will, actually, I was going to say B-movie to, be a little harsher. But now that we've talked it through, yeah, I'm going to say cult classic as well. And if there are any chuds out there listening, I'm sorry that I came down hard on you at first. I was just trying to be cool. So
Does your basement have like a sewer or city water access? You better go check.
no. Nope, just a bunch of cages where people put their like storage.
You do have a sword though.
I do have a sword, yeah. Yeah, a little inside baseball for the listeners. I have a sword that my father got me because I'm a Mason, and he was going to get me a Masonic ring, but my monster hands are apparently too big to get a good ring or to get one done wherever my father's jeweler was. So instead, he got me a Masonic sword. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's the next step after you have a ring. He's like, well, if I can't get a ring, I better get a sword.
Hey, I think it's cool.
Yeah. But I don't think that it would be good for decapitating chuds. I'm just going to tell you right now. It's a pretty dull sword.
So, hey, what do we got next? I know we talked about a couple movies. I'm trusting your gut here. I think you offered some really good suggestions. So what are you feeling for next time?
Yeah. So because this one was kind of a smaller movie, like the director didn't really do much else, I figured we'd go with like one of the, classics of like cult horror cinema, Jim Wynorski's Chopping Mall.
Ooh.
So Chopping Mall is fun fact about that movie, like just to kind of give you a heads up, is it seems like it would be like a slasher taking place in a mall, hence the chopping. It is not. It is about mall security robots that go on a killing spree. So it is not what you would expect out of a title, Chopping Mall. So that is.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've never seen that movie, and I'm so excited because you gave me 3 or 4, and I know we were kind of bouncing back and forth, and you said, "Hey, here's what I think," and I was so stoked that you picked Chopping Mall because I've never seen it. So this is my first one that I'm like gonna, my virgin eyes are gonna see. So I'm excited.
Yeah, super good. Like Jim Wynorski is like a proven director. There's a couple of scream queens in it. I know Barbara Crampton is in it. So yeah, it's a really solid film. I'm trying to check here like where it's streaming. I'm pretty sure like everything is on Tubi all the time, so it's definitely on Tubi. I think it's on Amazon Prime as well, and it might be on Shudder. Yeah, so I'm showing here that it's on Amazon Prime. It is on Shudder. It is on Tubi. I think it's on Pluto TV, which is another free app. So easy to find. So good movie. Hopefully everyone watches it.
Yeah, please watch it before we talk about it. That way you can kind of join in on the fun. If you just enjoy us talking about the movie and the plot, I mean, we do a pretty good job of covering everything. If we missed anything, feel free to tweet us, and we will probably not read it, but still try.
Yeah, wait, should we plug like what our Twitter thing is, like what the Twitter handle is?
Yeah, so you can find us at the Dark Side Drive-In, and we're part of the Dynamis Media Group. We've got a couple other cool shows. Check us out. So you can find us also at dynamismedia.com. That's kind of where we keep a lot of our stuff. We post some reviews, which, I'm a little biased, but I think one of the hosts on the show is a pretty good writer, and it's not me. So Wait, Stefan's done some great reviews so far. And then we also have another writer, JPO, the sub, and he's done some great game reviews too. So check it out. You can subscribe to the website. I don't actually know what that does, but you can try. And then
you're in charge of this. What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what it does. Like, it sends you emails when stuff's on the website, I guess. I don't know, because we're not doing it. Yeah, we're not doing newsletters yet, but if we do, you'll be subscribed. And then I think probably the easiest way to reach us is on Twitter. So you could do there's Dynamis Media, there's at the Tilt Pod, there's at Backlog Pod, there is at the Dark Side Drive-In. So check us out, find us. You'll instantly know which one is ours when you see it. I think we fixed our logo thing for Apple Podcasts, which was awesome. So shout out to my wife who made the logo. And then, anything else you want to cover?
No, yeah, I did notice that the Apple Podcast logo was fixed. So yeah, it's good, because not that I didn't like the old one, but the one that your wife designed is way better. So
consistency is great.
Also true. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to get technical about it, but I have a personal Twitter. If anyone wants to follow that, it's at Darkschneid, but I don't really tweet much, so it's almost not worth your time and barely worth mentioning. So there's that. And yeah, I do have a couple of movie reviews up on the site. I'm gonna be dropping my Renfield review shortly.
I can't wait for that.
I just have to edit it a little bit. I tried to do something different structurally because I was worried that I was just like following the same beats every time I wrote a review. So I kind of messed with it, and now I don't like it as much. But yeah, I'll be sending that to you probably tonight or tomorrow. Yeah,
and then so another thing that we have some cool plans for this show too, to add in some Foley work. If it gets too much, just let us know. We'll dial it back, but we're just gonna kind of have fun with this. And then also we do this every other week. Both of us have a week where in the summer we're gonna be like gone doing something, so we have to maybe record like one or two ahead of time. But if there are any movies you want us to take a look at, and we think it would fit the show, just let us know, and we'll try to slot it in.
Yeah, I challenge anyone to try to come up with a cult horror movie that I don't know about, because I would love to hear more.
Yeah.
So yeah, please do. If you've got ideas for something we should do that I haven't heard about, like, send them my way.
Sick. Well, I think that does it for me. You good?
Yeah, I'm solid.
All right. Well, I've been Shane with the Dark Side Drive-In.
And I'm Stefan, also with the Dark Side Drive-In.
Stay spooky.
Good sign off. That's good.
I'm gonna try, and every time we'll pop.
Spook them up, boys.
Oh God.
All right. Good enough.
See ya.
See ya.